Alright, I've done a video on hips, so what I'm going to do on this one is try to show you how the hips are used in certain stances from a kata practice point of view, etc. And also from just probably a blocking point of view as well, because from what I've seen recently is there's a few people that are sort of using the hips, but also the block isn't going in the correct place. So I'll just move a little bit closer. We'll start simple with a Hanzen Kutsudachi. It's just a short stance. Now when you're using your hips, you need to have both knees bent, as we probably explained in the previous video. Both knees bent so that your hips can twist. Okay, so that you've got this action. Not twisting with the feet right now, but certainly twisting with the hips. Now when you're blocking, I use a variation of block so you can see, and I'll probably just use on my left side, so I'll just literally stay in this position. The mechanics are going to work for the other side as well. So when you're using your hips in Hanzen Kutsudachi, and this would also be for Zen Kutsudachi as well, from a static point of view, you need to make sure the block remains square with the front of the room. So if you can imagine that your face is the square part of the room, that's the part where the block has to be pretty much in front of. What I mean when I say that is that just because your hips are turning this way doesn't mean that you block this way. You need to make sure that you're still blocking in front of the head. So as you can see, the body stayed there, but the block has moved. So the face, where the face is heading, is the front of the room, for example, and the block, the Joranagi Uke, is square to that. Is square to that direction, if that makes sense. So wherever you're blocking over your forward leg, or even over your back leg, or in the direction you're facing, you need to make sure that you are covering this imaginary space here. Now that could be from this position for the head, but it could also go all the way down the body as well. So just it's difficult to explain. So just imagine that your face is giving you this imaginary space, and you are literally blocking that imaginary space. If it's here, even though it's an Uchiuke, from this position, you're still covering, you're still passing through that imaginary space, but the head doesn't move, but the body does. So from this position here, block and punch, or whatever it might be, prepare, block, but the block remains, the block doesn't go to the body, you don't block across this way, you're covering this area where the face is. Sotuke, same thing, covering this area where the face is. Gedambarai, again, from here to here, we're covering this part, regardless of where the hips are. Genuke, same thing. Chugyuke is a different matter. Chugyuke is generally square. Kakiyuke, depending on what stance you're in, Hanzen Kutsudachi, slight angle with the hips. You can pull off 45 if you wish. Shutuke would be 45 anyway. So when we say 45 degrees, your face gives you that flat surface to the room, and you are blocking that area, not blocking where the hips are facing. You're blocking where the head is facing. So if I'm facing over this direction, I still want this to be, it obviously depends on where you are, etc. But just as a basic rule, block where the head's facing. From here, block, make sure the block covers where the head's facing. Block, not over here, you're covering, you're clearing the body, but also clearing this line as well, if that makes sense. Same thing. The other thing is how to, and that same thing would go with Zen Kutsudachi. So I'll just show you from this angle so you can see. I'm square to the front of the room now, but notice that my arm doesn't follow my body. The arm needs to stay with the hip. Sorry, with the face here. Even though the hips are off, the arm is still coming closer. Even though the hips are off, the arm hasn't stayed in line with the hip, it stayed in line with the head. Here, 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 not here. A typical example would be something like Basai Dai. It's a Dashi version of Basai Dai. 1, 2. Hips are facing in this direction. The block isn't over there. The block is covering this line. If that makes sense. So that's, and again, the same would go for Zenkutsu Dachi. So if I'm here in my Zenkutsu Dachi, turn the body off, the block doesn't follow the body, the block stays with the head. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Could be this way. If you are square to front, then obviously yes. This will all be in line. Not that way, if that makes sense. Hips are used in different ways in different stances. So again, we've just sort of shown the Zenkutsu Dachi, the hand Zenkutsu Dachi. I think in the previous video I showed some twisting. Zenkutsu Dachi can also twist in things like Empi, this way. That's another way you can use the hips. When you are using the hips in, I'll go move on to the next stance. We'll move on to sumo stance. Depending on how you are transitioning, will depend on how the hips are used. So from this position here, if we go, I've got width to my stance, it says drunkly, I've got width to my stance, and I want to step straight forwards. So from this position here, it's all going to be in this front leg, through here. Front leg again. Notice that the foot's locking at the last second. Here, through, here, through. So you use the foot at the last second, and the same would go for, would you pick part of a kata, kata seiyunchin, from here, using the hip. Use the foot at the last second when moving forwards into that sumo stance. Same goes if you're moving forward linear, in just like this, from this position, on the side. 1, 2. Obviously the body is going to move first, but the back foot kind of stays there until, if I do it this way so you can see the back foot, which is now this one here, kind of, and then twist in. So that's where the twisting action comes in as well. For Kokutsu Dachi, I think I've explained that on the mechanics, but I'll explain it again. Kokutsu Dachi is exactly the same as sumo stance. So if you can get this, or even get this, moving from a square point of view to a sideways point of view, Kokutsu Dachi should be easy. Because left foot, leave it to the last second, engage. Same going backwards, front leg this time, engage. So when we step, we're here. Do it this way so you can see. 1, notice both feet are pointing straight forwards, and you can see the, excuse me, you can see the bit of width in the stance. I'm going to close it off now. And hopefully that should be heels in line, roughly thereabouts. I'm moving forwards a little bit quicker. Through. Through. And again, watch out for the belt wobbling. Watch out for the skirt flying. So, sumo, whenever you are doing a technique that is static in, say, shikodachi, or even kibidachi, what have we got? Empi. Empi, we go from here. Now, it's going to be not a lot of hip, as in, don't negate the stance with the hip. Still maintain the stance, but just a little wiggle with the hip. So as you hear, there, slight shift. Be careful not to put too much hip in so that it takes the stance away. Still want to maintain that kibidachi or that shikodachi. Where do we use shikodachi? Kata seizan. Seizan, here. One thing that we don't want to have, and I'll show you from a square point of view so you can see, is this happen. So there's still going to be that 1, 2, 3. Still a bit of a wiggle. If you get to, you know, my way, you get a bit of a wiggle. So that's how you would use the hips in different stances. Next video that I'll sort of do on the hips is probably in Neko Ashidachi and Sanshin. So I'll go through the transition of that as well and how to use hips in that. No, I'll do it now for you. No, I'll do it next time, because there's a lot of different ways that you can move in Neko Washi that actually still execute your hips. But the basic of it is you're in your cat stance, backside out, core strengthened. So not this way. I'm just sort of moving my arm so you can see. Not arched back this way. Here, into your Neko Washi. And what that does is it'll bring the hips in line with the shoulders, not here. So you don't want to roll the stomach up and strengthen this way as you would if you were in, say, Sanchin. Push it out, lock out the stance. Now when you're moving forwards in this and backwards in this stance, different ways of doing it, but I'll go into that in another video for you. Now Sanchin is, I might have covered this in the previous video. Sanchin is, it's not hips roll forwards. I have done this, I remember doing it. You strengthen without straightening that leg, you just strengthen the leg. And I'll move a bit closer so you can see. So from this position here, no hips engaged, slight, very, very tiny shift here. And it's in this. Now that you can see that that knee isn't straight, so it's not there. Still bent, but the hips have become engaged. And it's strengthening this back leg. You can strengthen the front leg as well, but just be careful that you don't roll the hips forwards. Okay? That's basically the majority of stances. That's all the stances, I think. So that's how you use hips in stances. I think I've done the hips in basics. That's pretty straightforward. Next thing we'll do is use hips in kicks. All right? But that'll be another video. Okay? Hope you got something from that. Again, practice, break it down. If you get any questions, feel free to leave a comment or see me in class. All right? Speak to you soon. Bye-bye for now.